1140 The Fan.
What if?
Talkin Money.
And we're back to Talkin Money. And here's Jeff Tarbell.
Little Motley Crue on a Saturday.
Like it. Turn it up.
Not sure if it sounds good on the AM when coming out of your car. It sounds good in here, though. Okay, boys, let's rock the house. How you doing?
Doing good.
Jeb Burton has come in the studio as well. How you doing?
Jeff, very good.
Pull that a little closer to you. Will you see? It's almost touching. There you go.
Is that better?
There you go.
Yep. There you go.
Now we got you.
Thank you.
There we got you. We are, this is Talkin Money. This is hour 2 of 2. I got to look at the calendar and see when we go to, we go back to 1 hour when the NFL season starts. I don't know, when Grant, you know when the NFL starts this year? Is it September, somewhere in there? Okay, so we got a couple more months here. I don't know what we're going to do in 1 hour.
Button things up a little bit.
I don't know what we're going to do in 1 hour. It was basically just come here, say my name 4 times, and leave. That's about all I get out of my mouth in 1 hour. So, hey, we've got. Do we have a quiz? Let's throw our quiz question out there. We'll wait for the break. That's all right. I was thinking we did the one before the break, but we did not. I did get a couple texts during the break at 441140. Hey Jeff, here's a harp question. I'm a retired buzzard. That's his word, not mine. 5 1/4 Fannie Mae loan on my crack house. Okay. So far, I'm feeling like I want to make a loan here. Worth about 165, balance is 115. Originated in 08. Yeah, you may not be a harp loan. If you've got $50,000 worth of equity, you may not need the harp. The harp is, well, this is what happens now. The biggest advantage of the harp, HARP, harp program is you can maybe avoid an appraisal, which is good if you're upside down. So when you send your loan application into Fannie Mae, or when we upload it for you, Fannie Mae will come back and tell us, go ahead and put him into HARP anyway. You know, we'll waive the appraisal. It's still a Fannie Mae loan. We won't have to make you jump through all those hoops and hurdles. But the HARP pricing is different than a conventional refinance pricing. So if you have equity and you can go conventional refinancing with an appraisal, you'll save a lot. I mean, it's 3/8 to 0.5%.
Remember, nothing's free.
Yeah, so it's 3/8 to 0.5 point lower if you can avoid the HARP by going with, if you have equity, going that route too. So don't be all hung up. We've had people tell me, I want the HARP. I don't want to pay for my appraisal. Okay, you're going to pay 0.5% more in rate.
You're going to pay that in the first month
to save $400. That's up to you. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the HARP stuff. We'll talk about that some more as we have some time. I did mention in the first segment today, I was going to talk to you a little bit about what's coming out on the Obama tax, the healthcare tax, and one thing that is going to be in effect starting in 6 months, 2013, is the 3.8% Medicare tax on all unearned income. Now, I don't know about you, but I never in my life have had any unearned income. Nobody's ever just walked up to my door and said, "Hey, Jeff, are you Jeff? Yeah. Hey, no, here's 20 grand. Have a good day." That's unearned, by the way. You're going to have to pay some taxes on that. I have earned every damn thing pretty much that has come my way and then some. But anyway, if there's unearned income in your life, and what they're referring to generally is capital gains, sales tax, dividends, rents, royalties, interest, some annuity income, you're going to be paying a 3.8% tax on the income. And so where that falls into, this is for incomes over $200,000 a year. It does not apply to your primary residence, but if you sell a rental property, a second home, you sell some stocks, some different things too, there's going to be a 3.8% tax put on those that goes into the Medicare fund to fund part of the, assuming it's not repealed or he is not voted out of office. So that can be, that's a couple grand on a, so you take a guy, they give it an example here, sells this $300,000 condo and makes $50,000 profit. There's $2,000 right there that's going into the Medicare fund on your behalf. And that, you say, well, I don't have a second home, Jeff, it doesn't bother me, but you do have some stocks and some other things you might be selling out of your different accounts. And so that's one that seems to have popped its head up a little bit, and that you may see that might ramp up some sales of some properties or the liquidation of some accounts and different things right at the end of this year. So don't be surprised if the stock market doesn't do some little weird things toward the end of the year as people are now unloading, different accounts and putting a pressure on the sale of the market, which could bring the market down a little bit as they figure, okay, I'm just going to take my profit now and save myself the 3.8% return on that money now as opposed to next year. So I mentioned that earlier. One other thing I promised I'd bring up this week, I got an email this week, and this is at the jeff@jefftarbell.com site, and the email was from a borrower who was asking me, should I decline to state my ethnicity on my application? This was a borrower. It was a female that emailed me, and the contention was if I put down that I'm African American, or if I put down that I'm a Hispanic, or if I put down that I'm Asian, or whatever. She didn't say where she fell in the category, but will that hamper my application or hurt my chances of getting a loan? And I replied back to her and I said, well, if you ignore the fact that it's against virtually every state and federal law in the world to do that, that's the obvious answer. But the true answer is this: lenders are tracked. What's the term? I just went blank on it. But there's a
HMDA?
Yeah, thank you, HMDA, HMDA, the HMDA. They're tracked at the end of each year for their profile of their borrowers, and there can be some issues if you're not. I mean, they're tracked. You would be shocked if you knew the level of investigation that goes into lenders and how they track and how much this borrower paid and this ethnicity and all these different things. And it's only going to get tighter and more challenging as the new laws come out. But anyway, at the end of the year, they're profiled on, hey, it seems like this institution is constantly, lending to Caucasians, at a disproportionate rate, and and blah 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 blah. Regardless of the fact, nobody ever goes back and says how many people actually applied. So I had 65% Caucasians apply. I should have 65% percentage funding, but so lenders are tracked by that. So I guess what I'm saying is that we want to get credit for you, if you will. If you're Hispanic or if you're African American, whatever, I don't care what it is. We only discriminate on one color only. If your money ain't green, okay. If your money's not green, we can't help you. Other than that, that's the only color of the discrimination. So they want to know who they are, and what you'll see a lot of times is that they'll put I elect not to disclose, and we as the originator are then required to guess what you are.
Yeah,
and
required.
Yeah. Now, if your last name is Gomez, and you are not Hispanic, what am I going? I guess it sounds like that might be a Hispanic. I don't know, and a lot of times I don't even see you. So
yeah.
how am I going to? And I'm supposed to guess on what you are if I can, because I get a copy of your driver's license and I have to look at this picture and try to decipher what. So don't worry about it. It's so much of what goes on in our business now is automated in large part, that the first bite, if you will, in investigating a borrower is done through an automated system, and it's looking at your credit score, your income, and all the other factors. It's I don't believe it's factoring in race, or religion, or marital status. I don't think none of that comes into effect. So please, be loud and proud. Whatever you are, put it on there.
Absolutely,
and let's get a more accurate picture of who's borrowing, because it does help when there is a fact that there are some ethnicities that are overcharged, based on other percentages, and quite frankly, they're overcharged by a lot of their own community. So they want to be able to figure out here, what's going on, who's equally borrowing, and all those good things. So enough of that. But anyway, please don't be afraid to put down whatever it is you feel that you want to put down. I think it does not hurt you at all. So that answers the two questions I got throughout the week. Jeb Burton is in, and I was introduced to Jeb through another buddy of mine, Colin Grail, and we had some conversations. I had started talking to Colin. I was back, 6 months ago on a cruise in the Caymans, and I think it's the 8th largest banking operation in the world, and it's a little scrub brush of an island that's got some beautiful water and some great diving around it. And Bill Gates has a house on this dumpy island, and I'm thinking he must be here to watch his money or something. So I had started asking Colin about who puts. That's how I got introduced to Jeb. Who puts their money in the Caymans, and And what are the benefits of doing that? Assuming I'm not running drugs, and that's assuming. I'm not admitting I'm not running drugs. I could be running drugs, but I'm not assuming that.
Right.
But if you're not trying to hide money from the federal government, I mean, is there a legitimate purpose for having a foreign trust or moving your money into different? And that's kind of how I got involved with Jeb, and I thought it was just an interesting question for the radio show. And before he heads up to Tahoe for the weekend, he decided he'd stop in and say hi. So first of all, let me say thanks for coming in on your weekend and spending a few minutes with us.
Absolutely.
So before I get too deep into all those different things, why don't you just give us the Reader's Digest version, if they still have Reader's Digest, of who you are, what you do, and we can talk a little bit about that.
I'm the managing shareholder of the Burton Law Firm, and we're a boutique firm made up of specialist attorneys that focus on business, tax, and estate law, and intellectual property, and a little bit of litigation. And we represent mainly closely held businesses and families of those closely held businesses. Most of our clients tend to be in the higher net worth range, but we really work with generally family held businesses and the families behind them. And a lot of that, in my particular specialty, falls in the estate planning world, as well as you mentioned, asset protection, and the tax side of things, whether that's income tax, international tax, and international business planning to a certain extent.
Okay. So you run into the closely held businesses because at some point in time they hope to sell their business or they're afraid of being sued during the process of running their business or any number of things.
Absolutely. And as I said, my focus is a lot on what we call business succession, passing businesses between generations or helping people get out of businesses. And the firm's whole focus, the reason we do the areas of law we do is everybody in business is going to have to run into a business law, formation, doing all the things that goes along with that, tax law, because that's just the nature of the world, and estate planning. At some point, you're either going to have to sell the business or get out of the business, do estate planning to your kids. And even if you sell the business, you've still got assets that you then have to do planning. And asset protection falls into that as well, because if you don't have asset protection, then someone can walk in and take all that you've earned. So even on a basic level, asset protection is forming a corporation or forming a business that's designed to stop your personal assets from being attacked when someone sues your company, and it can be more complicated, as you're saying, setting up trusts in foreign countries. There's a whole gamut on that.
So, and I used to start the show off today. Before you got here, I used the scenario, even something more simple, which would be, I have 3 daughters that will all be driving sometime in the next 18 to 24 months, and things happen, and people get hurt in car accidents, and so is there a way for a family to protect themselves from themselves, which means that if one of our kids goes out and kills somebody, certainly hopefully you have some insurance, but at some point in time even the insurance company says, screw it, here's a check, I'm out of here, and then now they come looking to you for like you said, anything else you've garnered, you've saved over the years. That sounds terrible, like, well, gee, you guys are at fault, you should pay, but is there some asset protection for families in those type of events as well?
Well, the first thing I mentioned to your comment about, well, you've done this, you should pay. I'd like to point out that pretty much everybody, whether it's company, organization, business, they involve themselves in some sort of asset protection. We do it when we buy a safe and we keep money in our house. I mean, it's part of the everyday way of us approaching things. There wouldn't be banks and safety deposit boxes if we weren't trying to protect our assets. When we say we're protecting them from creditors, the question that you've got to deal with is, do we have an existing creditor, someone who's coming after you that already has a claim against you, and are you taking that money and hiding it? Or what you're doing is basically saving a nest egg or saving something in place so that if something unexpected that you don't expect to occur down the line comes up and sues you for that, are you protecting the future inheritance or future assets that you need to survive off of? And that's the idea of asset protection. So to answer your underlying question, dealing with the family, the most important thing on a basic level, as you mentioned, insurance has to be in place if you're going to handle any of this protection. On a secondary level, there's a lot you can do. The simpler things are dealing with issues on the family level of, okay, do I give my kids access to my funds? One thing that I constantly see families do, which is a huge mistake from a tax perspective as well, is putting their children on title to their house.
Okay.
Now, when that 18-year-old goes out and gets in a car accident, if they weren't on title to your house, your house isn't going to be protected. And that 18-year-old's an adult. They have to pay their own debts. But if you put them on title to your house, whatever the reason for you doing that, the moment they sue that 18-year-old for the car accident, your house is now subject to that lawsuit. And it's a very common problem. People do it for estate planning purposes. And the correct way to do this, when you've got these assets and hold to something like a revocable living trust, and that's the most common in California,
Right.
Which is designed to basically allow for the transfer of assets upon your death and also protect those assets and protect you if something were to happen to you, such as a head injury while you're alive, and allow somebody else to manage those assets. So that's the most basic thing you can do. The secondary issue to that is, well, a revocable living trust, I generally describe it, people think that it has asset protection in itself built into it. And I tell people a revocable living trust is like a bank account while you're alive and you're competent. That bank account can have assets put into it. It's a bank account you put your house into, essentially. You can take it out, you can change it, you can do whatever you want with it, but just because it's so easy to access, some third party can also go in and access the assets in there. So if they sue you, they can grab what's out of your revocable living trust and take those assets as well.
But they can't sue my child and get even if the child is the beneficiary ultimately of the trust assets, they can't come make that leap.
That's correct.
But if I just have if it just says Jeff and Kelly, my daughter, and she's on title with me together, and you're it's funny that you say that because I haven't thought about that. Because you don't see it so much at the 18-year-old level, but you do see it when they're 38 and people do stupid stuff at 30, 40, 50 and and beyond. And so and I see it all the time. Well, my son's on my account with me, my checking account and my savings account, and he's also on my house in case something happens to me. And I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's very common. We see it on a regular basis. And it unfortunately, actually, the act of putting your child on that house, it's a gift. So if you give your child joint tenancy with the right of survivorship over your $500,000 house, and even if you have $300,000 or $400,000 or $600,000 as a loan on that $500,000 house, you're making a gift of half of the fair market value of the home at the time you do that. So that's a $250,000 gift for which you're supposed to file a gift tax return. And the IRS does come back and unwind these things when somebody passes away, and then hits everybody with back penalties and everything else. So even if there wouldn't have been tax on the death of the individual, sometimes they'll go back and pull these houses in. It's not as common, but it does happen.
Okay, so okay, Grant, we'll go take a break. Let's take a quick break. You got a quiz question there about Mr. B?
Yes, our friend.
339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 441140. If you want to get in and ask Jeb a question about your own estate planning or concerns, you can do that too. Give us a call during the break. Go ahead, Johnny.
So, Warren Buffett, our friend here,
Yep.
He earned $3.46 million from one person by doing what?
So you raised $3.46 million. I think he gave the money to charity, but
He did.
What did he? So what did Warren Buffett do to earn $3.46 million from one guy or person? It's an anonymous person, and to give to his charity. 339-1140. 1-800-920-1140. Maybe he had to wash his car, or he put a billboard saying, "I'll cut your grass," something like that. Something there. Okay. 339-1140. 1-800-920-1140. You can text us at 441140. This is Talkin Money. Jeb Burton from the Burton Law Firm is in to talk about covering your assets, and we'll be right back.